Welcome back. This is an extension of a previous Fitness Friday that we had. We talked about all things lymphedema and went back and forth, Cass and I, on our cancer journeys. We're both stage 3 cancer thrivers, and we had axillary lymph node dissections, which just means all the lymph nodes in the side where you had breast cancer were gone completely. And that can trigger what is called lymphedema, which is just a swelling that you can have either in your arm or in your chest and your side and back. And that is because all these little lymph nodes that you have that filter out the lymph, which is just fluid flowing from different organs, are taken out. And then that fluid doesn't really have anywhere to go. And if you're not moving enough, it can cause this pooling, which they call lymphedema. So Cass, she has already been diagnosed with lymphedema, and that was early on in her journey. I know we talked about in our previous live, but just give us your lymphedema story and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, no problem. So I think I had 14 lymph nodes removed, and I didn't have any lymphedema or issues like that at first. But one day I was actually in Toronto at a baseball game with my husband and my best friend, and I just looked down at my hand and it was like sizes too big, and I started freaking out. And it was when I was in radiation, so apparently radiation can trigger lymphedema. I tried not to freak out. A lot of people told me that it might not be, but then once I saw a lymphedema specialist, they confirmed it, and I got fitted for compression sleeves, and that was in September. So I've been living with it ever since. It's gotten easier, but then there's definitely still times where I feel like it regresses a bit, but at least now I know what to do with it, which is good.
Yeah, that's great that you learned how to manage it early on and you knew what was happening. So when you have these flare-ups, you can go ahead and attend to it directly.
Yeah, well, what's funny is my best friend that I was with, when it swole up, she's a chemo nurse. And so she was like the best person to be with when it happened, actually. So it worked out perfectly.
Yeah, she could be like, hold the phone. We know what's going on.
That's exactly what she talked me off the ledge. I probably would have been just bawling in the middle of Toronto.
Yeah.
Had her expertise nearby.
Yeah, I'm glad that you had her there with you and that you were able to together identify what it was and then take care of it and learn how to manage it. I think that I've heard some women that have gone years with it undiagnosed. And so I think you have that benefit of figuring it out right away. What is this? And knowing that's really great.
For sure.
Yeah. So then for me, I had lymph nodes removed for both thyroid cancer and for breast cancer. And so I had that full axillary dissection on the side there. And I had 11 lymph nodes removed and 4 of them were positive. So my physical therapist that I went to was all in the prevention mode. She wasn't a lymphedema specialist, but she had worked really closely with the breast surgeon. So she had me actually come in before the surgery and we measured like different spots on my arm so that I had a baseline. So we knew what to compare to. Yeah, in case there was any swelling along the way. So I got the compression sleeve. So I'm wearing the Lymphedivas. And I think, Cass, you wear the Juzo brand.
Yeah, I want to get the Lymphedivas. I just haven't gotten around to doing it yet. But
yeah, so those are both great brands. And in my recent stocking up on new compression sleeves, I learned that there's a difference. So when I first went in to my physical therapist and she recommended these sleeves as prevention, he gave me a flat compression sleeve, which basically takes your skin and it just pushes it in the same amount all the way up and down the arm. And I always really complained to her and I said, this is not comfortable. It is so rigid. And it just felt like I was being strangled. And so actually recently, as I was talking with my therapist, she said that there's more of a graduated compression. So the difference of the one brand that I had originally was that flat all at one. And then this one, the Lymphedivas and the Juzo brands has graduated. So it pushes it up towards your heart. And so that's why you feel that like it's a little bit softer. It's not as constrictive. And as you move, your body is what's going to be pumping that close to your heart. So if anyone's had a maybe not so great experience with a compression sleeve, maybe you had that flat compression and you just need to get remeasured and look for one of those graduated compression sleeves.
That's such a good point. Yeah, I think I had a similar experience with you, and then once I switched over to these Juzo ones, it felt so much better. I don't love wearing them just because who would? But if I have to, I'm happy to do something with this. It's incredibly soft, and I can forget that I'm wearing it sometimes, which is nice.
Yeah, that's really great. Something that we can forget about, I think, is the best thing. And I like the fun patterns. So both of the brands have fun patterns. You can get colors. And I've noticed, I don't know if you've noticed this, but sometimes the flesh tones ones tend to be a little bit softer than the colored ones. So I'm not sure if it's the dyeing process. Maybe someone from one of those companies can let us know why it is different and why we're seeing that, because I know I tend to go towards these lighter colored ones with just that print on it rather than the whole thing being printed.
And with your lymphedema, do you have to wear like a glove or just the?
Yeah. So originally I didn't have lymphedema and I had some swelling in my back here that wouldn't really go away. And after the surgery, I thought that might have been that they cut some nerves because my arm was numb originally and then it receded to the back of my arm. Now I have feeling up here and I didn't have in the back, it never really fully recovered. So I went in recently, it was like 2 weeks ago, to a new physical therapist, a lymphedema specialist here where I'm living now.
Mhm.
And she said, measurement wise, you don't have lymphedema because it was matching the other side. But that when she looked at the symptoms that I was experiencing, so those pins and needles and numbness and fullness back there, that I was in that stage 1, so that early stage lymphedema. For that, I had the compression sleeve. And then they also had me fit for a compression bra. So I'm wearing it. It's not the most attractive thing, but I wanted to show it off today. It's the kind of bras that you would get for right after surgery.
Okay.
And they have these adjustable straps, and then it comes up pretty high on the side here. And so it can actually squeeze in here on the chest and on the back to help that to come in and flow down. I have like more minor on the arm, but the back and the side, there was no way to compress that. So this has been a recent addition to my treatment and management plan, is having something to apply that pressure there. And for some of us, if you had a full mastectomy, depending on how your breast is shaped, it's going to be a little bit different at how the compression bras fit. For me, my breast is more horizontal as they look. So they took all this tissue from here. I'm wearing a prosthetic right now, but they took all this tissue to the side. And so what my therapist noted is she said that I needed to have like extra cushioning here on the side to account for that, because this side is all normal, but this side here, it wasn't tight enough. The bra wasn't tight enough to actually give you that compression. So I actually just ordered one of those side things that will help put that pressure on there.
So interesting. Do you find the bra is more uncomfortable than a regular bra?
Yes, I think it's more uncomfortable because of the rib cage. So the rib cage spot, it's a really thick band. And so it has to be tight so that the compression bra itself is tight. And so that's what I think is more uncomfortable. But I have noticed that if you have some bras that might cut in the middle, then that may be more uncomfortable. So at least this band goes further down. So I'm not getting that in the side there that was causing more swelling to go up. I am over a year out from surgery. And so my original physical therapist said that you're at risk for up to 2 years to get the lymphedema symptoms. But I think honestly that kind of pins and needles thing in the back had been there early on after surgery. So I don't think that was a new thing. I think it was just me being more aware. And I got to the point where I had had the flu, and so I wasn't really active for a couple weeks with that. And then I couldn't even sleep on that side. So that was a warning sign. And I know you did ask about the glove. So initially no glove, but I have had some issues with blood flow. So I'm actually going to be getting a glove
Mm,
next week. And I wanted to try the gauntlet. So the gauntlet is like where it cuts here, right?
yeah.
And it doesn't hurt your fingers. So I was going to try to compare and see the ones that include my fingers versus the one that's just the gauntlet because I've had carpal tunnel in the past. And
Mhm.
so I have the kind of arthritis gloves for that. And that really helps. So I think that for me, the swelling in the hands may not be lymphedema necessarily, but more tied to my computer work that I do on a daily basis.
Okay, that's super interesting. And let me know what gloves you find works best for you. Lymphedema is so unique to everyone, right? So what works for one person won't work for the other. But I know for me, if I could only wear a sleeve or a glove, I would only wear a glove because that's where all of my lymph pools is in my hand. Uh,
Okay.
yeah. When you're mentioning the tingling and numbness, I always mention that to my therapist, and she's, oh, I don't hear that from other people. I imagine this, but when I take my everything off at night, like the gloves and compression sleeves, takes half an hour until I have no feeling in my hand. Like it just completely numb. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because to me, when I've been reading about lymphedema, that is typical lymphedema pins and needles. So it may just be the people at different
Yeah.
phases. And maybe if you're more in the prevention phase, you don't feel that. Because with my thyroid, I didn't have that at
Mhm.
all. So there's a comment in the chat about the K tape. So yeah, the kinesiology tape, that's what I use for my thyroid because there's no way to really compress this except for apparently there's like a turtleneck and like full chest piece that you can get now, which is
Oh,
so unattractive.
oh.
But yeah, so that is an option to use the kinesio tape. The only thing is if your skin is sensitive, then you may not be able to use that tape. So I had tried it once on this side and it immediately, I had that kind of redness to it. So definitely like test it out first. And your physical therapist can even show you how to cut it and where to put it. And then you can put it on yourself and you want to be pulling it to where you have functioning lymph nodes.
Mhm.
So I asked my new lymphedema specialist, I said, where do you think I have the lymph nodes? Where's the best route for it to go? And so if you have this axillary dissection there, then down your side to your hip is going to be a good area. And then also back across your back. Cass, you have a night sleeve. Do you feel like that works better than the ones that you wear during the day? Because they are different.
If it works better, but I definitely, if I don't sleep with it and I do sleep with it, I notice a huge difference. So it's doing something, but it's very uncomfortable when you also have hot flashes to sleep with it on because it's pretty, yeah, it's not sweat resistant. It's just super uncomfortable. And unfortunately, I get all my hot flashes at nighttime. So
Yeah.
I go to bed with it, but I usually wake up with it
With
off.
it all. Yeah, that's the same thing with the bra. I put it on and I go to sleep and then I'm like, wake up a couple hours later and I just have to take it off.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just all
Okay.
you can do is do as much as you can, right? But I don't think you're like forcing yourself to be comfortable. It's kind of defeating the purpose of it all.
Yeah, exactly. If it's not sustainable,
Mhm.
then it's not really helping. And one of the other things that I want to mention is that my new specialist had talked about referring me to a lymphedema pump.
Oh,
And I'm
they're
not
amazing.
crazy about this. Do you have one?
They're like $6,000, so I do not. uh,
Whoa.
where I live, where you can rent it, it's like $1 a minute, and it is so relaxing. And they usually measure you before and after, and it's crazy how quickly. Like if I was to have a big flare up, I would go to that.
Okay. Wow. That's great. Mine being stage one and pretty mild. I'm like, I am the pump myself. My specialist, she said also swimming is really good for it because
Oh.
it's very calming on your joints. That and there's massages that you can do to yourself to clear the lymph. That has been one of the things I've been doing. And there's a couple great people on YouTube that I can link to. I've noticed if I wake up in the middle of the night just doing it, I can see it almost immediately go down because you're waking up lymph nodes here and then you go down your arm and then back up your arm. So you're clearing it this way and then allowing the flow to come back towards your heart and then making sure that you're down those routes. So if you're having the foot issues, I know there's the compression socks too that can help as well. So I don't know if you've tried any of those, but yeah, definitely scar tissue massage. That was another thing I wanted to mention, that I actually recently did some of that with my lymphedema specialist because I had not had any massages on this after the surgery, because I went from surgery into radiation and the skin got really bad. And so I didn't really feel comfortable going to a massage therapist for a while after that. But she was able to really break up a lot of the scar tissue. It was built up around my scar, like for probably an inch above and below it.
Wow.
And just in session was able to really release that. And she even found like some cording that had still been there from my surgery. So she was working on that as well. But yeah, it's definitely helped to open up. And so just for everyone out there to know that it's not too late to go and get that done, or even there are lymphatic drainage massages that can help you to get that flowing again. So you can do that on a weekly basis for a while and then see where you're standing with that.
That's a good tip. I was going to ask you if you found that anything since you've been diagnosed, have you changed your diet, your sleeping patterns, your exercise? Have you started to play around with that and see if it triggers your flare up or anything like that?
Yeah. So one of the things that I did is we went to the gym, and I had been doing at home yoga and more body weight exercises and doing things like that. But we said, okay, let's start going to the gym and do more weightlifting. But I did a little bit too much, I think, the first day, that new gym excitement. And so I had more of a reaction after that, because I think I went from lifting 40 pounds max on my wrist because I had broken it last year. So I went from about that to doing 60 pounds.
Wow.
And with the different gym equipment, my wrist wasn't strong enough to keep that good position. So I think it's better to start lower and work your way up and make sure you have that good form, because that I noticed like more redness in my hand from that. If you're someone like me that it starts up here in your arm, then I actually started doing a heat pad around my wrist, and then just like a stress ball, and you can just squeeze it and that'll pump the lymph towards your heart. And then actually all of the redness will go out of my hand
Wow.
after that. Yeah.
Amazing. I have never heard of that. I actually thought you weren't supposed to put heating pads and do extreme temperatures with lymphedema.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying is if your lymphedema is in that spot, that's not where you'd want to put the heat,
Oh, okay,
but
sorry.
it's somewhere else. So like for yours, if it's in your hand, then like maybe your elbow or like higher up in your arm would be an area to do that to help it flow. So I think for me, it's like more pinching blood flow here. So I don't have the lymphedema like normally in the hand, warming this bone up here and these blood vessels is allowing it to flow better, versus I wouldn't put it up here on my arm where I'm having that lymphedema. Normally that's where it starts. Yeah, I think it just same thing with the kinesio tape, right? If you're having that right here, then you don't want to have the tape here because this skin is more sensitive, versus the tape on your back where you're not having that flare up can help to pull out the lymph and then move that gradually so that there's less blockage.
Okay. That's a great tip. I'm actually going to try that this week and I'll let you know how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I hope that this was helpful. We can always check in and do some more little lymphedema chats. But yeah, I just wanted to hop on here and let everyone know that even if you don't have it measurement wise, if you do have symptoms, then you should definitely get a second opinion. And a regular physical therapist may not know everything that the lymphedema specialist would know. So if you are concerned with a flare up, or if you're having that temperature sensitivity, that you want to make sure what's happening with it and you can get that managed better.
Definitely. I also think just having you talking about it is so important. because I know when I was diagnosed with lymphedema, it was really hard to find anyone online who spoke openly about it or provided tips or anything. I did find some people, but they didn't have lymphedema themselves. They were therapists, which is still great, but I know I always prefer to learn from someone who's actually walking through it themselves. So I just commend you for being so open about it, and I think you're going to do great things with your story.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And you were there, and I could send you a message when I was like, oh my goodness, this happened. I think that's a testament.
So it's nice to have someone to chat, though I am sorry you do have it, of course.
Yeah. But it's all about seeing what we can do. And I'm definitely up for challenging it because my therapist said, once you have it for
Yeah.
life. And I will do my research because I'm a scientist by trade. And we will see if this is actually true. And maybe there is just things that we don't know about it yet. Things that I've been thinking about, like Tai Chi, acupuncture, but those are kind of things that they let the energy flow.
Mm.
So it may be tied to the lymph as well. And I know there was a comment in the chat, rebounding. Yeah, rebounding is great because it just stimulates it, and you don't need to do extreme exercise to make your lymph flow. I think a lot of my flare ups tied to sedentary nature. So I have my little watch here that I just got to go and say, remind me to get up every hour and to walk. And that really does help if I get up and do that. Yeah, there's definitely ways that we can help manage it better. And, just be honest, like we're living this life. Okay. So I get to wear these cool
With it.
sleeves and have fun with it.
Yeah, good attitude to have. I think that's so important.
But yeah, I want to thank everyone for joining us here on your Friday evening. Again, yeah, we have our other YouTube chat that was with Cass and I talking about other things, lymphedema.
Yeah, it's nice. So thanks for having me. Lovely chat, and hope everyone watching has a great weekend.
Yeah, all right. Everyone take care.
Bye.
Bye.